Hello and welcome back to my channel. I've been wanting to do another reading on the Ukraine-Russian situation for some days now. I first read, if you saw the last reading, on the day that Russia invaded Ukraine, and that's 18, 19 days gone now. And every time I've sat down to do it, I've not felt the time was right. But today the time does feel right. In fact, I feel fairly compelled today to do it. So I'm not going to look at this from the point of view of the facts and figures of the war. Who's winning what, where and when, and who's got what to do with what. I am going to look at, firstly, the collectives. So I'm going to look at the Ukraine as a collective. Then I'm going to look at Russia as a collective, because I'd like to know what really is the spirit behind these two groups at the minute. So I've had this pack of cards that I'm shuffling now out of sight. There you go. Under a blue and a yellow crystal for the last few days, just to give it a bit of Ukraine energy. So I'm going to use this set to read on what is the collective energy of the Ukraine right now. We know all sorts of things. We know that millions of Ukrainians have headed out, that safe corridors have allowed people to escape to freedom. Hopefully it's not a long-term freedom and they can come home soon. But how are they feeling? How is Ukraine feeling as a nation? How is it dealing with this? And what is its spirit at the minute? So let's just dive in and see what the cards have to show us. Difficult cards for Ukraine, I think, at the minute. The first card we get suggests that Ukrainians, and remember we're talking as a collective, Ukrainians feel very much rejected and left out in the cold. They feel that everything they had of value has been taken or is being taken from them. And I think when you're in that position, it's very hard to see beyond. There is still some seed of hope, though. There's something in the Ukrainian spirit that has faith and believes that things can change and that things will change quite soon. And that's partially what will keep them going. Because what's over them is this changing perspective. I think initially in this war, they sort of thought, let's sit it out and just see where it goes and we'll deal with it as it comes, never quite realizing it would be as atrocious as it has become. But beneath them now is this feeling of having been betrayed. And I think that Ukrainians, of course, feel that Russia has betrayed them. I think they feel betrayed by the great nations of the world who appear to be doing really very, very little. You could argue that with sanctions and such like, but I think the Ukrainian people want physical action and they don't see it coming, and they feel as if their world has been taken from them without any help, or real help. They know that they're getting financial aid. They know that they're getting practical support in many ways. And that's great, but they really now are at the point of fearing this. They're at the point of fearing disaster. I think that this war has now gone on long enough, has caused so much pain and misery, and they cannot see a way out. So this is not fact. This is, how do Ukrainians feel? So let's just draw a few more cards for the Ukrainian people who are at a really, really, really difficult point right now. Yeah. They really, really are waiting for help, and they can't understand why help is not coming more swiftly and more thoroughly. Let's not go into NATO and whether NATO could or couldn't hit Ukraine and what that would do in terms of escalating the war into potentially a world war, which I didn't see happening in my last reading, and I don't see it now, although we're not reading specifically. But I think the Ukrainians feel disappointed, isolated, and endangered as a people. So a very, very, very bleak time for Ukraine. So hold them in your thoughts. But of course, there are two sides to every story. And for all that Russia is the aggressor in this war, most Russians will have nothing really to do with it, don't want anything to do with it, don't know why Russia is at war with Ukraine. I think we also need to be cognizant that a lot of Russians don't know that their country is at war as such with Ukraine. So the military exercise that Putin has announced to save Ukraine from the Nazis is what's being fed through state channels to the Ukrainians, to the Russians, I beg your pardon. But, well, I grew up in a society that had state-controlled media, and I didn't know a lot about the atrocities that happened in my own home country for a very, very long time. So I can understand how the Russians are misled, misinformed, but I really do believe that Russians, like all of us, have evolved to a level now where this kind of old school warfare is simply not on. So like we looked at the Ukrainian spirit, which is close to breaking, I now want to look at the Russian spirit and see how is Russia in the face of this war? How are ordinary Russians feeling as a collective? So let's look into this. So Russia. Different picture for the Russians, although there are similarities. I believe that the average Russian person, like you or me, really feels that this is being done behind their backs and against them. So there is fear of retaliation, fear of what might become and what they might lose as a people. They can see, I believe, that this is a sort of knee-jerk reaction from their leaders and not a rational, thought-out process, no matter how long it may have taken to assemble the troops and to actually launch the action into Ukraine. The Russians have fundamentally a decent anima as a people. They don't want this negativity. They want prosperity. They want light. They want to know. They want information. They want to be part of the world. Right now, they feel as if they have been shut out. They have been shut out, of course, in many cases. But they feel as well, I think, that there isn't an easy solution for them. So they feel that they're being lied to, that they don't have the full picture, and that they don't see any way of that changing. So there's real dissatisfaction amongst everyday Russians. Let's just draw a couple more cards in and see if we get any more. Yeah, there's real anxiety here from Russians. Russians who can see that they are being misled into some kind of world dominance. So here we have Russian leaders wanting to take control of territories that are not theirs to take control of. Here we have them being led by ambition, by greed, by addiction, taking things that is not theirs to take. But the Russians themselves are more pragmatic and practical and would like to be part of the world. And right now they feel really betrayed. So there's a lot of anxiety in Russia right now. And we're talking, remember, please, the collective Russian psyche or soul. This feels wounded. So consider that for a minute. We have the Ukrainians close to despair, and we have the Russians broken. So it's a long way out of this conflict, really a long way out of this conflict. So let's just ask, what is the way out of this conflict? Is there a solution? Is anything happening that we don't know about, perhaps that you can share with us? Just give us an idea. Is this a diplomatic solution? Is the war going to increase? Will it escalate to other countries? Where are we, please? Right, fingers crossed for some good news. So there is hope. That's really, really lovely to see. Center of this reading, hope. Right, okay. This is starting off, I would think, really positively. So we have real hope, we have resources, we have a world with enough money to spare to help, making that gesture. We have isolation from both sides. we have emotional responses, we have law coming in and playing a role, and we have a mediator coming in. So I said in my last reading, I felt that this war would end with a diplomatic solution. Whether that comes with any kind of military retaliation or if it's just diplomatic remains to be seen, but I believe there will be a solution to this, and I think it will be talked through by rational people. Okay. There is law here, so justice will be brought to bear where it's necessary. The world is watching this. There is tremendous strength supporting, I guess, the Ukrainians, although you'd have to say supporting everybody who is torn in this war. And there is a real feeling at the end of this of being able to rebuild. So I would like to say that for all the horrors we're experiencing and for whatever you're seeing on the news and whatever stories you're being fed or choosing to believe, I really believe that this war in Ukraine will resolve itself peaceably. I think it's not here yet, but there is enough interest in resolving it and enough interest in the human spirit not to accept warfare in the sense that we're seeing it now in 2022. We are a different species. My great-grandparents lived through World War I. My great and grandparents lived through World War I and World War II. This is not long ago, and here we are again at this eventuality. And I do not believe that we, collectively as a species, as humans, are going to allow this. So let us be quietly optimistic. I feel really, really positive. I don't feel that this will drag on as long as many people fear. I think the severity of it is going to cause a solution quicker than we might imagine. So I'll do one last and very small reading, and let's just see, is the solution imminent? Is there something on the table we don't know? I think the solution is imminent. I don't think it's on the table. I have two senior people. They represent as kings in the pack, but they're senior people on either side of the world surveying its options. So I believe that both sides will be drawn to the negotiating table for whatever reasons. We know that the cracks are showing in Russia and sustaining this war is costing a great deal. We know that Ukraine is on the brink of collapse. So now's the time, and I think someone's out there ready to do this. So keep the faith for now. It's not over, but I do believe that better times are coming for all of us, and most specifically for the people of Ukraine and the people of Russia. Let's not forget that both sides are involved in this, and most of both sides are entirely innocent people being pushed into circumstances beyond their control or desire or belief systems. So keep them in your hearts, both the Ukrainians and the Russians, and let's pray for a reasonably quick solution to this without too much more agony, bloodshed and misery on both sides. So thanks for being with me today. I hope that wasn't too vague and too general. I just felt that we needed to look more into the spirit of this to try and understand how it might solve itself. And I hope that perhaps there's a little bit of hope in there, and that you might join me in hoping and praying that this comes to an end soon. So I will see you soon. Thank you for joining me. Do subscribe if you'd like to. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think. And till next time, bye-bye.